Human rights advocacy group Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project has called for the immediate withdrawal of a bill before the House of Representatives. The Central Bank of Nigeria sold 31.94 billion naira, about $104.76 million in treasury bills in a bid to tighten liquidity in the money market. Saudi Arabia says it has decided, along with its allies, to extend a deadline for Qatar to accept a list of its demands by 48 hours. And world champions Germany secured the first Confederation Cup title after victory over Copa America winners Chile. You're watching the African Broadcasting Network. Welcome to the news at the hour. I'm Okiomte Fekuji Obao. Human rights advocacy group Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project has called for the immediate withdrawal of a bill before the House of Representatives, seeking full and complete amnesty for treasury looters. According to the group, the bill is being sponsored by People's Democratic Party lawmakers from Ebonyi State, Lionel Okorie, and it proposes that treasury looters shall not face any probe, inquiry or prosecution, and shall not be compelled to disclose the source of their looted funds, as long as they invest their ill-gotten wealth in Nigeria. Rejecting the proposed bill in an open letter to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, CRP argued that such a bill was counterproductive to the country's quest to defeat corruption. It said the amnesty proposition was ill-intended, especially at a time when Nigerians are witnessing a sprawling gap in accountability for grand corruption and high-ranking public officials accused of corruption are getting away with reduced punishment and are allowed to keep their ill-gotten wealth. According to Serap, the bill was also in conflict with Nigeria's obligations under the United Nations Convention Against Corruption to establish territorial criminal jurisdiction over corrupt acts, prosecute alleged offenders, and apply prescribed sanctions through a fair trial. A member representing Udegi local constituency in the Nasarawa State House of Assembly, Mr. Muhammad Okpuku, has said the persistent crisis between Fulani herdsmen and farmers has worsened the herdsmen and starvation in his constituency. The All Progressive Congress member says the food and catch crops could not be harvested due to the violent crisis in the communities in his constituency. Okpuku, also chairman House Committee on Works, noted that there was need for the farmers and herdsmen to embrace one another, considering the importance of peace and unity to the socio-economic development of the society, adding that kidnapping, robbery, farmers and herdsmen crisis, among other security challenges, had negatively affected the lives of the citizens and the socio-economic activities in the state and the country at large. He employed the people of the state to be security conscious and to report any suspicious movement of persons or groups to the appropriate authorities for necessary action. And now business news. The Central Bank of Nigeria has sold 31.94 billion naira, about $104.76 million in treasury bills in a bid to tighten liquidity in the money market, while overnight lending rate fell. Trader says the bank sold 31.52 billion naira of 349-day treasury bill at 18.59% and 440 million naira of 160-day treasury bill at 17.98% at auction. The cost of borrowing among commercial lenders, however, dropped to around 5% on the interbank market from around 8.5% last week. Traders said cash balance in commercial banks accounts with the CBN stood at 320.35 billion naira on Friday, boosted by the repayment of around 287.39 billion naira in the matured treasury bills on Thursday. Traders expect rates to remain flat next week unless the central bank decides to take advantage of the low rates to mop up excess liquidity from the banking system. Gold price fell 0.23% to ROS 28,373% 10 gram at the futures trade as speculators trimmed their positions, tracking a weak trend overseas. At the multi-commodity exchange, gold for delivery in August declined ROS 66 or 0.23% to ROS 28,373% grams in a business turnover of 792 lots. Similarly, the metal for delivery in far month October traded lower by ROS 67 or 0.23% at ROS 28,541% 10 grams in 25 lots. Market analysis says offloading of positions by participants amid a weak trend overseas mainly led to the fall in gold price at the futures trade. Globally, gold fell 0.3% to $1,237.50 an ounce in Singapore. That's it on business news. Now let's join Julia for news from around the world.
Thanks, Okiyomute. Egyptian criminal court has sentenced 20 men to death for charges of killing 11 policemen in the violence incidents in Kadasha City, Giza province west of Cairo, that followed the military's ousting of former President Mohamed Morsi in 2013. The death sentences were issued after the cases were sent in April to Egypt's Mufti for approval. Mufti's opinion is legally required but not binding. The presiding judge, Sharon Fahmy, who described the defendants as fighting against God and his prophet, also sentenced 80 people to life imprisonment and 34 to 15 years in jail. One minor was sentenced to 10 years in prison and 21 people were acquitted. The incidents, usually referred to as Kedasa incidents, involved gunmen fired rockets, propelled grenades at a police station on August 14, 2013, and slit a policeman's throat before burning the building down. The incident occurred hours after security forces forcibly dispersed two pro-Morsi protest camps in Cairo and Giza, killing hundreds of protesters and security forces. South Africa's Treasury will unveil an action plan on Friday detailing economic structural changes and timelines to boost growth to 6%. The plan will be released after a policy conference of the ruling African Congress ANC wraps up a meeting overshadowed by a power struggle between rivals seeking to succeed President Jacob Zuma. South Africa's economy contracted 0.7% in the first 3 months of 2017 after shrinking 0.3% in the previous quarter, piling pressure on Zuma. Proposals being debated at the ANC's conference, which have unnerved investors, include holding a referendum on land reform and a push for the appropriation of land without compensation and greater black ownership of businesses. We will go on a short break. More news when we return. Welcome back. German Chancellor Angela Merkel said leaders will have to focus on sustainable and inclusive economic growth rather than their own prosperity, as thousands of anti-globalization activists took to the streets in Hamburg ahead of this week's G20 summit. Merkel said this year's G20 summit will delve into issues championed by protesters, such as distributors of wealth and consumption of resources, alongside related issues like climate change, free markets, consumer protection, and upholding social standards in her weekly podcast. Hamburg police said 10,000 demonstrators marched peacefully in the rain in Hamburg on Sunday in a prelude to the July 7 to 8 gathering, where 21,000 police across Germany will protect the meeting of the world's 20 largest economies. It was the first of 30 registered demonstrations this week. Some carried banners reading "Fight Poverty," "Stop Coal," and "Planet Earth First." German authorities are bracing for trouble, worried the protests cool down violence as they did outside G8 summit in Genoa, Italy in 2001, when one person was shot dead and hundreds injured. In a speech to Parliament last week, Merkel promised to fight for free trade and press on with multilateral efforts to combat climate change at the summit, challenging the America-first policies of U.S. President Donald Trump. The German Federal Crime Office warned that violent G20 opponents could carry out arson and sabotage at infrastructure targets such as Hamburg Harbor and airports, newspaper Welt am Sonntag said on Sunday. Saudi Arabia says it has decided, along with its allies, to extend the deadline for Qatar to accept a list of its demand by 48 hours. According to the Saudi Arabia's official early on Monday, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain and Egypt agreed to grant Doha an extension via a request by Emir of Kuwait, Sabah Al-Mad Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, who has been meditating. Al-Sabah made the request after Qatar said it will be representing him with their response on Monday. Al-Sabah made the request after Qatar said it would be presenting him with their response on Monday. The announcement was made after the former deadline expired on Sunday midnight. Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates severed diplomatic ties and cut all land, sea, and air contact with Qatar on June 5th. The four countries accused Qatar of supporting terrorism and destabilizing the region, allegations denied by Doha. The countries later issued a list of demands for Qatar to meet in return for the normalization of ties. Among them was that Qatar should shut down Al Jazeera, a media network that has reportedly been critical especially of Saudi Arabia, close a Turkish military base, limit its ties with Iran, and compensate distraction in countries. Until now, Qatar has stated that it will not be given into the demands, with Qatar's Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani stressing that the requests were meant to be rejected and that Qatar is always ready to defend itself. Let's join Ogale for Sport News.
Greek champions Olympiacos are expected to confirm ex-Super Eagles striker Emmanuel Emenike as one of his new signings on Monday. The former Spartak Moscow striker was expected to land in Athens, the Greek capital, for medicals, where he will officially be confirmed as the Olympiacos' latest signing. Emenike Tete was reportedly on the radar of many European clubs last season, but he opted to stay at Turkey giant Fenerbahce till this summer before making the proposed move to Olympiacos, reportedly to be worth €2 million. The Nigeria is seen as the best option for the Olympiacos after Dumersi Mbakani failed medicals last week. In addition, Turkish outlet Milliyet also confirmed that Olympiacos are due to complete the deal for Emenike on Monday. Emenike endured a sordid time at Fenerbahce under coach Diet Avocat last season as he was confirmed to the bench by the Dutchman, the Nigerian scoring 8 goals in 27 matches in all competitions. World champions Germany secured a first Confederations Cup title after victory against Copa America winners Chile in Sunday final in St. Petersburg. Lea Sinde hit the first half winner following a mistake by Marcelo Diaz, while Chile Arturo Vidal and Angelo Saga both blazed over the bar in the closing stages. Germany Timo Werner was elbowed by Gonzalo Jara, who escaped with a yellow card despite the use of video assistant referee. Earlier, André Silva scored an extra-time penalty as Portugal recovered from a goal down to beat Mexico 2-1 in the third-place play-off in Moscow. Luis Neto bundled his own net to hand Mexico the lead, but Pepe stabbed home a stoppage time equalizer to force an extra 30 minutes at Spartak Stadium. The former school teacher Jeff Hunt, who stunned Manny Pacquiao to win the WBO World Welterweight title, has dismissed suggestions that he did not deserve to win after beating Pacquiao, an 8-time world champion, following a unanimous point decision in Brisbane, Australia. Pacquiao, coaches and celebrities including Lewis and Kobo Bryant are critical of the judge's call on the result. Pacquiao Australian coach, former heavyweight boxer Justin Fortune, had described the referee as sketchy and the judges as crazy following the bout. However, Pacquiao, 38, congratulated his opponent and said he respected the decision after setting up his victory with an aggressive start before both fighters tried in the final rounds. The Australian responded by paying tribute to his rival, describing him as an absolute warrior, a legend of the sport. More than 51,000 spectators watched the bout at Brisbane Lang Park Stadium. Report claimed the underdog won a guaranteed $500,000 from his fight against Pacquiao, and he could now be set for even bigger paydays. Hans has already challenged U.S. boxer Floyd Mayweather to a fight, and he would consider a rematch against Pacquiao. That's it on Sport News. Over to you, Okemute.
Thank you, Gale. With our sport news, we'll come to the end of the bulletin. But before we go, a recap on the major stories that made the headlines. Human rights advocacy group Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project has called for the immediate withdrawal of a bill before the House of Representatives. The Central Bank of Nigeria sold 31.94 billion naira, about $104.76 million in treasury bills in a bid to tighten liquidity in the money market. And Saudi Arabia says it has decided, along with its allies, to extend a deadline for Qatar to accept a list of its demands by 48 hours. And on Sport News, world champions Germany secured a first Confederations Cup title after a victory over Copa America winners Chile. Thanks for watching. You can follow us on our social media platform by visiting our website www.abnchannel.net and follow us on Twitter at ABN Channel. Like us on Facebook at ABN TV. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel, African Broadcasting Network. I'm Okemute Fekuchi. Thanks for watching.